It is impossible to plumb the depths of the individual mind because the individual mind is really not individual, but is individualized. Behind the individual is the universal, which has no limits. In this concept alone lies the possibility of eternal and endless expansion. The riddle is solved, and we all use the creative power of the universal mind every time we use our own minds. Let's take those words into our hearts and contemplate them for a time. And how good it is to realize that the only thing that limits us is ourselves and our own ideas about ourselves. So as we come together this morning, we come together with open minds and open hearts to just embrace all the possibilities of life, the possibilities of this beautiful day that we're given, of this wonderful opportunity to be with kindred souls, all expanding, all loving, all just engaged in this wonderful adventure of life. And today we just celebrated so vibrantly the blue sky and the warm sun and the picnic on the lawn. This is life expressing. This is God expressing. This is God expressing as this community. And how grateful I am for this. And I simply say thank you, God. And so it is.
How grateful I am.
Yeah, when you get the two-man escort, it's wonderful. We should all just limp a little, right? I'm kidding. I've been escorted upstairs and downstairs for weeks now. It's quite wonderful. So, W.R. Inge, I'll tell you about him in a minute. He wrote this. He said, "We are potentially all things. Our personality is what we are able to realize of the infinite wealth which our divine human nature contains hidden in its depths." The really surprising thing is that Dean Inge was an Anglican priest, and he was the dean of St. Paul's Cathedral in London in the early and middle part of the last century, of the 1900s. But the truth is truth, right? And we find it in his statement. This is a truth we find everywhere, that life, by whatever name you call it, has no limits. We live in an infinite universe, and we are part of an infinite mind that's infinitely creating out of itself all the time. And that very life has given rise to all of us and to everything that we do. It is our life. It's the very breath we breathe. It's the potential in all of us, as Dean Inge said. We are potentially all things because of our divine human nature. Yet we assiduously measure out for ourselves limited quantities. Many of us use an eyedropper. It's like, I'll have 1 drop of health, and maybe 2 drops of love, and maybe a half a drop of abundance, and I'll be satisfied with that. We use an eyedropper, and I think we do that because we've convinced ourselves that we're somehow alone, we're separate, we're apart, we have to do it ourselves, that this limitless life is all around us, but we're not part of it. We have to create life for ourselves, which of course reminds me of one of my favorite pulpit jokes. There was a scientist who contacted God and said, we don't really need you anymore. We can clone people, we can implant organs, we can do all sorts of things that used to be created, but used to be considered miracles. We don't need you. And God said, well, let's put your theory to the test. How about we have a little contest, a little competition. Let's see who can create, let's say, a male human being. And let's do it the way I did it in the good old days. And the scientist says, okay. So he reaches down and grabs a handful of dirt. And God says, wait just a minute. You get your own dirt. We don't have to create the dirt. We don't have to even create the life. It's already there. All we have to do is increase our thinking, enlarge our thinking about the life that's already flowing through us. That's already flowing through us. Because life carries us from experience to experience to experience. All the time. We can't stop that. We have to allow, we simply have to allow more and more and more of life to flow through us. And the template for all of that is, of course, our thinking, the way we think about life, the way we perceive life, what we believe, Near the end of his life, our founder, Ernest Holmes, wrote, and I've updated the gender a little bit, the person who is able to free his or her thought from the dominance of the past, from confining self-imposed restrictions as to what and how he will think, who places no barriers on the good today will bring him, is the one who is able to live a creative life. Her thought is unlimited, and so is her experience. And at the same time, she accepts, without restriction, the flow and activity of mind in and through her. To free our thought from the dominance of the past, I think the very first place we have to go is to admit that we've absorbed the past thinking of our families and our society and our teachers and our friends and all of the thought that was there for us to absorb. And then we have to set ourselves free of the old idea that God is somewhere out there, separate from us, and we can't contact it. God, universal intelligence, life, whatever you want to call this creative power of the universe. It's not out there. It can't be out there because it's right where we are. Really, truly, every one of us is the center of the universe. If you stop and think about it, the universe is expanding in all directions from every point, right? That means right where I am is the center of the universe. Right where you are is the center of the universe. It is expanding away from you in all directions, and you're right in the middle of it. We are all right in the middle of life. We're all right in the middle of life. So we have to give up that old idea that it's out there somewhere and that we have to do it all on our own. Or we have to give up the idea that perhaps there is no power of life, that we're an accident, that we just sort of sprung from the evolutionary tree by accident. Either way, we're under, I think, a misconception that we're all alone and that we're islands unto ourselves, which simply cannot be, no matter how you think about it. From a cosmological point of view, the Big Bang thing, we all came from, every bit of us, and all the energy that is, from that initial flaring forth. There were things that happened, like secondary stars exploded and created heavier elements that are now this carbon-based unit named me. But it all started in that one initial moment. Whatever you want to call it, we're one with it. You can look at it cosmologically or spiritually or however you want to look at it. All we are is one with the life of the universe. And the more faith we put into that idea, the more fully we live. So I want to define faith. I mean, faith is a consciously chosen, definite way of thinking. That's how Ernest Holmes defined it, and I love it. He said we need a faith in the creative intelligence of the universe. We need a faith in the fact that things can be better. We need a faith in the spiritual causation that is back of all things, so that we're not confused by appearances. If you have trouble with this concept, stop and consider something. We can either put our faith in something that scares us to death, scares the life right out of us, or we can put our faith in something expansive. The energy used is exactly the same, whichever one you choose. You can choose to shrink, or you can choose to expand, because the amount of energy it takes to scare ourselves is the same amount of energy it takes to expand ourselves. So we make a conscious choice. What do we want to do? Expand or be frightened? Personally, I really don't like to be frightened. So I try to continuously remember that life is flowing through me, all of it, all of it. Ernest Holmes again, he said, if we come definitely to see that faith is a certain mental attitude, why then should we not learn to acquire this attitude independent of any circumstance or situation and exercise it so completely that it brings fulfillment into our lives? Yeah, why not? Why not exercise it so completely that we feel fulfilled, that we have fulfilling experiences, that life is fulfilling? The only reason, I believe, is because we're imprisoned by our old habits of thinking. We put limits on life. Life doesn't put limits on us. And I know that some people might say, wait a minute, what about people who are born into dire poverty and deprivation? Hasn't life put limits on them? No, it's not life that puts limits on them. It is society. It is the collective of us and the way we think, the way that we have believed life to be. The dominance of past thought creates those limitations. Stop and think about it. You all know these people. You all know someone who just knows that they're going to be unhealthy and that one thing is going to go wrong after another in their bodies. I grew up with people like that. You know what? It's true. It's exactly what happens to them. They believe it so strongly. My mother believed it so strongly that she brought all sorts of what the doctors gently called, in a whisper, psychosomatic diseases to herself. There's a new name for them, but that's really what they were. She believed it very strongly. You know, people who are always certain that they're never going to have a great relationship, so they don't. You know, people that are certain they will never earn decent money, so they don't. They don't. There are people, on the other hand, that look past the circumstances and remember that they're putting on the limitations, not life. I want to share something that was written by one of you. I asked a couple of people to tell me how the center had changed their lives, and this is one response. Quote, I've been coming to the center for about 10 years and taking yoga classes with Laurel for about 20 years, so I've really been working on my inner landscape, trying to quiet the monkey mind and to lessen my negative self-talk using affirmations and other things. When I saw that Maggie Pierce was coaching Prosperity Plus 2 last spring, I decided to sign up and see what it was all about. It literally changed my life in a hugely positive way. It was like a 10-week positive affirmation, change your thinking, change your life course on steroids. She said, I got rid of most of my leftover negative self-talk and blasted away my inner saboteur, the one that loved to stop me with unnecessary fear from doing a lot of cool stuff that I wanted to do. It was amazing, to say the least. Almost immediately after the class ended, I started dating someone I already knew from work. And with the help of that class, I did not do my normal push away, wall up, close off my heart thing. Instead, I approached this person completely openly and with love. And what happened was the blossoming of a love relationship I never really thought was going to be possible in my lifetime. Not to say that's all that came out of the class, because it's not. That was just the icing on the cake. I am so amazed and so in awe every single day. That is somebody changing the limitations she had put on her life and blowing herself out of the water. It's a wonderful thing. She was able to connect with who she really is instead of the limitations she had put on herself. She was able to decide that to have faith in the goodness of life instead of the smallness that she had put on herself. She was willing to let life flow through her and bring all that it has to bring instead of falling back into being taken in by appearance. So she moved into an expanded life by putting her faith in the good rather than in the limited, in her own worth, in her own place in the world, in her own lovableness and ability to love, in the flow of expanding experiences. So over and over and over again, we hear this from spiritual teachers everywhere. We started off with the Anglican Church, for goodness sake. But they've always told us that it's the size of our thinking that determines the size of our lives. Over and over again, they give us practices to enlarge our thinking. And I am currently in a class. I'm always in a class. I'm always keeping myself on the learning edge because it helps me grow, helps me remember. So I'm taking a class right now based on Emma Curtis Hopkins' work with a colleague of mine who's been a minister for 25 years and is spectacular. So every 2 weeks we get together on the phone, and this is last week's lesson, and it just really moved me. It comes from the Gospel of John, and the Gospel of John is that really weird book that doesn't seem to fit anywhere in the Bible because it is a map for the initiation of the soul. That's what John really is all about. So you'll recognize the story. Jesus and his mother were at a wedding in Cana, and they ran out of wine. And that's a terrible thing at a wedding. And so Mary said, Jesus, they've run out of wine. And he said, woman, why are you involving me in this? My time has not yet come. Does that sound familiar? We talked about that last week, remember? No, not me, I stutter. No, not me, I don't have the skill. Finally, he reconsidered and said, here I am, here I am. And what he did was he told the servants to bring him very ordinary things. Clay pots full of water. And by giving thanks and raising and praising those ordinary things, he turned them into extraordinary wine. It's so extraordinary that the groom's father said to the son, hey, usually people serve the good stuff first, and then they save the icky stuff for when people are a little, had a few. He said, you saved the best for last. This story has so much to tell us because we can take any area of our lives, any area, relationships, money, love, health, self-love, whatever it is, we want to expand and ask ourselves, what are the clay pots I have here? What are the actual everyday things I have in this situation? And then you praise the heck out of them, and you raise the heck out of them, and you keep praising them, and you let gratitude for what you have already become part of your life, become part of your thinking, always. Because that's what opens us to the flow of life. When you see what you have and are grateful for it, you praise them in the morning, and you praise them at noon, and you praise them in the evening. Keep praising what you already have. Keep becoming grateful for what you already have. And then you begin to see the fruit of the exceptional wine in the water. And once you have a clear picture of that, you can be grateful for that picture and let it grow larger and larger and larger in you. And pretty soon, you're going to dip in a ladle and draw out extraordinary. That's just what happens. Because we open ourselves up to the infinite flow of life. This is the practice of a life without limits. We learn to be grateful for what we have. Not wait to be grateful when we get something. We're grateful now. Grateful is the attitude that says, sure, I'll take more. I would love more life to flow through me. When you can't pay all your bills, you're grateful for the ones you can pay. If you're not able to give to support something you want to give, you give 50 cents or $1 and you're grateful you were able to give that much. When you find yourself in a moment of pure comfort in your own skin, you raise it and praise it and say, I'm so grateful I had that moment. That's what gives you more moments like that. It's gratitude. Gratitude and being willing to see that things get better and that there's something larger right in what you're already looking at. There's something larger. Never praise your problems. Always praise the answer to the problem. Praise the solution. Explaining the problem never leads you to the solution. It just leads you deeper into the problem. So we praise the solution. And the solution starts right here in the water, right here in the clay pot, right here in the ordinary of our lives. We see the solution there and we begin to let it grow. And then we begin to praise that and it grows a little bit more and we just keep being grateful and joyful at what we find in our lives. See in your mind's eye the thing you want to happen. See it happening right now in this moment, because that's how we tap into that creative power of life that is blowing life into the dirt that we hold in our hands. We don't have to create the dirt. We don't have to create the breath. It's provided to us. The ordinary things that are already provided to us allow us to create a larger experience. And that larger experience is also provided to us by life. We simply increase the limits of life flowing through us, the limit we put on it, by gratitude, by praise, by allowing and remembering that this life is flowing through us and that things can get better and that we can have faith in our very highest and best. That's how we allow our good to be provided to us by life, which is your life and my life and God's life, and it's life without limits. So I invite you right now to simply close your eyes and take in a big breath of life. And allow yourself to feel that breath flowing through you. The breath that is a gift. The breath that is your life. The breath that is the one breath of the one life in which we all share. The one life, the one power of the universe, by whatever name you call it. You can call it cosmic evolution. You can call it infinite intelligence. You can call it the universal spirit. You can call it God. Whatever name works for you. We are talking about the very power of life with a capital L that is everywhere present with all of itself. So that right where we are is the power of creation, of support, of sustenance, of supply, of health, of love, of joy, of wisdom, of all good things. It's right where we are. And we open to it a little today and a little more tomorrow and a little bit more the day after that as we simply celebrate it. We raise it, we praise it, we say thank you God for it. And it grows, and we grow, and this community grows, and we become a light that is brighter and brighter and brighter every day. I give thanks for everyone here. I give thanks for everyone who is part of this community, this life of God that is so beautifully expressing as Center for Spiritual Living, Greater Dayton. I give thanks for the lessons of my life that come to me in a steady flow, always allowing me to say yes to a little expansion here and a little expansion there, and sometimes a whole lot of expansion in a very short time. I am moved from ordinary into extraordinary experience. And I know the same for each one of us. And I just say thank you. And in gratitude, I release these words into the infinite law that always says yes to us, that has already said yes to us. I let it go and I let it be. And we say together, and so it is.
Just a thread, a simple thread. We are all just drops within a stream, flowing toward an ocean of light.
We may forget where we come from. We may forget where we're going to. I might not see that you're a reflection of me as much as I'm a reflection of you. Just a seed, a blessed seed, with eternity unfolding in me. And I pray that as I grow, I will reveal the love that illuminates my soul. When I remember where I come from, when I remember of me as much as I'm a reflection of you. Simple prayer, may I become a reflection of the infinite one. This is my simple prayer, may I become a reflection of the infinite one. This is my simple prayer, may I become a reflection of the infinite one.
Amen and amen. So let's take just a moment and think about those blessings. Think about those clay pots and allow gratitude for everything that is in our lives to just fill us up. Think about all that we have to praise in our lives. Think about our family and friends. Think about our beautiful weather. Think about our community that is offering up bodily sustenance and sustenance for the soul this morning. How grateful I am. And as the offering basket passes through your hands, whether you are able to give or not, please just offer up a blessing for the prosperity and abundance of our community so that we can continue to grow in all that we do, so that we can become more of who collectively we came here to be. And affirm with me, gratefully I give with an attitude of abundance.
Gratefully I give with an attitude of abundance.
I know that as I give, so do I receive.
I know that as I give, so do I receive.
And so it is.
And so it is.
So we have a couple of announcements. Don't forget, just head right on outside afterwards. The grill is fired up and food is going to be served and fellowship is going to be served. So I'll see you out there in a few minutes. This is the last week to join the 2 fall classes, Foundations, which is the prerequisite class for everything else, on Tuesday evenings at 6:30. And it's facilitated by Becky Victor, and it will change your life. I can promise you that. And Power of Your Word, for which Foundations is a prerequisite, on Monday evenings, facilitated by me. So you can just let me know or call the office if you want to join up with either of those classes this coming week, and then they'll close. Thanks to everybody who came to paint yesterday. The trim is starting to look really nice. I think they got the trim done and the new bookstore almost done. We are making major progress. We're still a little bit short, a couple $1,000s short of where we need to be to finish up the project. So if you haven't made a special remodel contribution, please do. We would love it. We're nearly there. We're nearly there. I wanted to tell you about our Interfaith Reading Group, which meets on the first and third Mondays of the month at 2:30. It is one of the people involved is Judy Nussmacher, so you can. Thursday is what I meant. It's the first and third Thursdays of the month, right? 2:30.
2:30 to 4.
2:30 to 4, and on October 1st they're starting The Untethered Soul. If you haven't read this book, you should. This will be a great opportunity to really go deep in it and change your life in a big way. It's a wonderful book. So talk with Judy if you want more information about that group. We started it with a book on compassion by Karen Armstrong, and it's really turned into a wonderful thing. On that note, I would urge you to also stop in at the bookstore after service. It's just around the corner past the men's room door. They have all sorts of wonderful things in there, books and cards and gifts and all sorts of wonderful things to enhance your spiritual journey. On the back of your bulletin is a page that has events and activities. There's already a whole bunch of things on there, but I want you to mark your calendar for one that's not there. It's October 18th, Sunday, October 18th. I will be in Salt Lake at the Parliament of World Religions, but I'm absolutely thrilled to let you know that we'll have a very special guest speaker. His name is Dr. Jim Lockard. He is brilliant and funny and very deep, and he'll be speaking on Sunday and then conducting a workshop for all of us. I think it's called Spiritual Edge Walkers. We walk the edge. The edge between spirit and human, and the edge between what has been and what is becoming. So don't miss that, October 18th. I think those are all the announcements I have, unless is there something I'm missing that you know of? Good, okay. Oh yeah, so if you want to go to Serendipity Stables, the sign-up sheet is on the table back by the bookstore door. That's a place where they have spirit horses, and I think it's next Saturday. So if you want more information, sign up on that sheet and put your phone number down and they will let you know. On the back of your bulletin, you will see that the 3rd and 4th is the fall hike and camp dinner and camp out, and all the information is there. It's also, I think, on the back of your single page insert in the program. And so, with that, I would just like to remind you that our practitioners are available for you after the service. If they just want to stand up and so people can see you. These people will be available to you after the service for prayer. Thank you all for being here. They have studied a long time and worked hard to be able to see the spiritual truth in spite of circumstances. So if there's something you'd like prayer for, just ask one of them, and they will find a corner with you and give you a one-minute miracle. That's their gift on Sundays. You can also put a written prayer request in the prayer chest back there. Prayer is an amazingly powerful force, and so we use it a lot. So with that, before we all run out to the picnic, let's stand for our closing affirmation and Holy Ground, which will be our closing song. The wholeness of the universe is seeking expression through me.
The wholeness of the universe is seeking expression through me.
Its nature is goodness, truth, beauty, and wisdom. I allow it to shine through me. Today and always. And so it is. Have a fabulous week.